straight out. Both eyes open. Heart full. Eyes clear. No, bear. No. Sorry, they brought you back. Time to go back. Gush, 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 gush. Okay? They call me the reverser of all science.
That's a bad name.
It's a bad name. That sucked. That was a name. Guys, welcome to Off Limits. We're back. We are back after a hiatus. I wanted to roll this out properly. I moved to Austin. This is the first. I'm going to have some amazing guests on. Already recorded some with some great guests. But I figured I'd just kind of reintroduce the podcast with myself. Couple housekeeping notes. April 18 and 19. Springfield, Missouri, Blue Room Comedy Club. If anybody's in the Missouri area, maybe even Kansas City area, I don't know how, I'm the worst with geography. Come get some at Blue Moon Comedy Club. It's going to be awesome. And I'm doing my 1 hour that I shot, but I'm already changing it. It's already coming together. It's already, like, writing stand-up is such a nightmare because it's always like you write a special, then you throw it away and you start from scratch. And I go through 6 months of thinking I'm never going to be able to write something funny. Anyway, let's move on to what's going on in the world. Let's talk about some stuff, okay? Because the world's on fire. And I want to say the first thing about, like, if let's just take tariffs as an example, or whatever's going on in the world, or the Supreme Court's weigh-in on the deportation of a bunch of Venezuelan gang members. And then the Supreme Court or the lower courts weigh in on whether they should come back or be allowed to come back, whatever. Like, it's impossible to know the details of this stuff. If you're a guy, if you're an average American, if you're just somebody like myself who's worrying about paying bills, raising 4 kids, paying your taxes on time, trying to have a modicum of a life, I don't know how to become an expert at, deportation law or tariffs. I don't know how to have an opinion on that. I have to a degree, rely on the experts. It's just the way it is. It's a little bit like when I turn the tap on in my house and I wash my hands or drink the water or use it to boil something, whatever it might be. I am assuming it's not toxic. If somebody puts, drywall up in my house, I'm assuming that drywall wasn't made in China with shortcuts, and that drywall then isn't toxic. I'm assuming there's a government agency that can take care of that. When the electric grid breaks down, or how about this? I'm assuming that there's somebody out there protecting the electric grid, and if somebody does sabotage it, some terrorist, we have backup. I'm assuming that's the case, especially in hospitals or traffic lights. So there are just certain things that you just assume are, how about flight safety? I assume they're keeping the geese out of the airfield by, detonating firecrackers. That's Department of Agriculture's job, by the way. I'm assuming they're keeping peregrine falcons around so they can keep all the other birds out of the airfield because they're territorial birds. I'm assuming a lot of these things. I have to. I can't do everything myself. That's kind of the nature of a society. And the biggest threat we have, and I've said this a ton of times, is that you've got a bunch of people who are grifters or think they're experts, bad actors, ignorant actors on podcasts, promoting their idea of reality. Vaccines is a good example of that. And, I just think that's the biggest threat. I really do. We have become wary of experts. Maybe the experts in science are deliberately quiet, too quiet. Maybe the way COVID was handled was, eroded even more trust. Maybe the fact that all of legacy media and all of the administration knew Biden was cognitively impaired and never told us, never admitted to that. These kinds of things erode trust. So I don't know where we go. The only thing left is to pay very close attention to what is being said, what is being promised, and try to remember that. Try to hold those in power accountable to that. And try not to swing all the way over to the other side to correct it. Americans have so much trouble just being generally in the middle. And maybe I do too. So that's what I want to open with, that idea. It doesn't mean you can't work for the answer, but the answer does become harder and harder to get to because, I talked to my friend the other day. I don't know necessarily where to look. If I'm going to do a podcast like this, here's the other thing about certain subjects. Not everything has to be a narrative. And I was talking to my buddy Robert about this. Not everything has to be a story. You understand? If you're trying to find the truth about, vaccines or tariffs, it doesn't all have to be, first I'm going to paint the bad guys in this scenario, and I'm going to paint how they're responsible for all the woes of the world. No, dude, no. I don't need a story with every truth. Sometimes there's just measurable evidence that we can look at agnostically and say, oh, well, this has worked and this hasn't. Okay? The medical experts, for the most part, have pushed us beyond our biology. Not everything is a conspiracy. The fact that my iPhone works, the fact that the supply chain actually works and I can get food into my body and my children's body at a reasonable price means a lot of stuff does work, means a lot of people are acting in good faith, means that there is a right way and a wrong way. The fact that Somalia and Afghanistan aren't doing as well as the United States or the liberal democracies of Europe might mean that there's a better way to do things. Like there's a better way. We have a track record. Pay attention historically to the ideas that killed people, like communism, top-down economics, whatever it might be, and freedom, messy democracies that put individual liberties at the forefront. That seems to work out better. What cultures, you want me to get really, what is it, controversial? What cultures seem to work better in the 21st century that help someone realize their full potential? What cultures? You think Chinese American culture might be effective? It seems like it is. Are there other cultures that are not as effective? Are there other cultures that don't seem to put out PhDs and expert violinists, etc., and innovators in thought, like the guy who, created NVIDIA? He's from Taiwan. What is it about that culture? Frugality, education, discipline, patience, long-term thinking. What is it about that culture, despite all the racism they experienced, that seems to push them ahead no matter where they are, whether they're Chinese in Malaysia, whether they're in West Africa, wherever they might be? What is it about that culture that no matter what, they seem to be able to accrue wealth, and their generations after the first generation does better? What is it? Family cohesion, discipline, all those things? I think so. So take a look at what works. You don't need a goddamn narrative for everything. We don't need a good guy, bad guy. I don't need to find the bad people that are causing all these problems, which you hear all the time. What do you hear with every conspiracy theory? I'm sorry, but it's always an invisible circle of Jews or someone like that, or globalists and bankers, which really means Jews. Like, this is not helpful, and it's also not true. It also takes all the pressure off of you. You might be the architect of your own misery and failure. That sucks to say, but I've had to do that myself. And when you do that and you take a look at what you're doing that's not working, what you're doing to contribute to your own failure, then, it's a sobering thing, but it's a great way to get out of that situation. So not everything needs a fucking narrative. Just look at the evidence. Damn, my jets are hot.
Serious.
My jets are hot right now, bro. And don't be so reductive. Here's the other, at 58 years old, let me just share this with you. We love to be reductive with every problem. Oh, there's a problem in the Middle East. Well, let's find the good guys and the bad guys here. You know how complicated the Middle East is? You want to know why the Middle East has always been a cauldron of, insanity? Is it just the Jews? Is it just Israel? I don't think so. The Middle East has that Sunni Shia divide. We can go on and on. It takes a lot of thought to earn an informed point of view and a helpful opinion about the Middle East. And by the way, just because you're outraged by the number of children who have been orphaned and killed, the extended families in Gaza, because you're outraged by that does not mean you're pro-Hamas, does not mean you're pro-terrorist either. So we got to be careful about how we categorize and label the people we disagree with. It's just not helpful. But you can get a lot of clicks and a lot of attention by essentially amplifying your monologue and coming up with a narrative that paints things in good and evil and in biblically catastrophic terms. That's what you want to make a lot of money. Get good at that. You'll be a liar, but get good at that. Angels and demons, good and evil, all that stuff. Where's the bad guy in this? What do they not want you to know? And who is they? We'll never know, but we know who they is. Wink, wink. Yeah, that shit people gobble up. Because we want the world to be simple. We want to find people who are bad guys, good guys. But you're being advertised to. You're being gamed. John Steinbeck, quote, I believe that there is one story in the world, the only one humans are caught in their lives, in their thoughts, in their hungers and ambitions, in their avarice and cruelty, and in their kindness and generosity too. In a net of good and evil, there is no other story. A man, after he has brushed off the dust and chips of his life, will have left only the hard, clean questions. Was it good or was it evil? Have I done well or ill? I love that quote. I know you're rebutting what I'm saying, yeah. But I'm not saying you should be a relativist. I'm not saying you should be somebody who says there is no good and evil, right or wrong. I think part of the most important thing in life is actually to be able to understand the difference and stand on the right side of history, but more importantly, stand on the right side of what is right and wrong. It is often the case that might makes right, but that doesn't mean you're right. So let me read that quote again for myself.
Beautiful quote, huh?
Beautiful quote. John Steinbeck. And I've read a number of his books. I believe that there is one story in the world and only one. Humans are caught in their lives, in their thoughts, in their hungers and ambitions, in their avarice and cruelty, and in their kindness and generosity too. In a net of good and evil. There is no other story. A man, after he has brushed off the dust and chips of his life, will have left only the hard, clean questions. Was it good or was it evil? Have I done well or ill? Bravo. Bravo. Now, road to hell is paved in good intentions. You can do a lot of stuff. And think you're doing well, and you're not. And that's the rub. I think it was Sadhguru on Rogan who said, there are a lot of people that do horrible things in the world because they think they're doing right. You can also be complicit by your silence or ignorance. You can be benefiting from a very oppressive regime without knowing about it. So it's really hard, man. It's really hard to walk a clean, straight line.
Yeah, I didn't mean to muddy the point or anything. I think
love
it was great.
I love that you have muddying the point is the point. Because sometimes it's really hard to know. It goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes it's very hard to know like what's right and what's wrong in this world. But you do know at the same time. That's a cop out. But it can be difficult to know at least what the truth is. Like who actually started this? What's really going on? But I'm going to quote Elika, who I had on this podcast too, Elika Bond, who said, look, there are situations, and she was talking, I think, about Ukraine and Russia, and she was talking about Iran. There is a situation where like if a country is trying to side more with the West, with a liberal democracy, with free markets, with individual liberty, they are closer to the truth and the good than is somebody who's being forced to align themselves with the Russian/Putin regime. Let's not forget that Russia still invaded a sovereign country because they wanted to be closer to the West. Let's not forget that Putin poisoned Yushchenko back in 2005 with dioxin. Let's not forget these things, okay? And Al Caban said, if a guy holds a gun to your head and you're in your car and he's going to rob you, the cop who comes up and stops that guy from robbing you might beat his wife. He might have even killed somebody. But in that context, that cop is right and the robber's wrong. So we get caught up in this sophistry. Sophistry is like playing with words, playing with the truth, So that's what I have to say.
Chill out, man.
I know. I'm fired up. Let's go through some current events. Dire wolves are brought back to life. Dire wolves. And I would have been psyched if the dire wolf was like 300 pounds. But it's not really that much bigger than a timber wolf. And as far as I can tell, I can't see the difference.
It's about 30 pounds bigger.
It is?
Yeah.
Than a timber wolf?
Yeah.
It's 30 pounds bigger than a timber wolf.
Yeah.
All right. How big is it?
I think it was 120 to 150. Or 130 to 150.
Because timber wolves are that big too. Timber wolves are huge. Yeah. They're bigger than the gray wolf, I guess.
Oh.
I mean, but timber wolves are, the ones in Yellowstone, because they were eating all that elk, they were 170 pounds, man. What does that say? Yeah, 175 pounds. Yeah, timber wolves. I mean, that's a massive animal, 175 pounds. Are you kidding me? So basically you brought back a wolf that's, same size. I can't tell really the difference, but it's kind of cool that they were able to do that. I mean, they're probably going to do that with the woolly mammoth. That'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, they're doing it with the woolly mammoth, the dodo bird, and
they're doing it with the dodo bird?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. They'll be able to do that with T-Rexes. They're going to be able to do this with gene editing. It's kind of incredible. It's the inexorable rise of science. I want a saber-toothed tiger. That's what I want.
Well, they're bringing back a tiger.
Well, I want to see the saber-tooth to see how useless those giant fangs are.
What do you mean useless?
Useless. I don't think they used them.
What are you talking about?
I mean, it's just a giant. Those teeth are in the way. It's like having buck teeth. It doesn't make you a better carrot eater, right?
They're bringing this thing back.
The Tasmanian tiger, I don't give a shit about that.
Jeez,
It's
man.
basically a marsupial. I mean, it's just a cat dog. Looks like a combination of like a greyhound and some shitty cat. Look, it's a marsupial. I told you. What'd I tell you? It keeps it's basically a kangaroo with a cat's face. Kiss my ass. I'm not even gonna. If the Tasmanian tiger's in the zoo, I'm not going to look at it. I ain't going to look at it. I'm literally going to skip the exhibition. And if a dire wolf's there, I'm probably going to skip that too.
Jeez.
When you get a woolly mammoth, come talk to me. When you get a saber tooth, come talk to me. All right? When you get, what is that badass thing? The wolf bear? That thing? There's a wolf bear that was a killer during the Ice Age. Huge animal with a short snout. Horrifying. It was like, bring that thing back.
What, Ice Age bear?
Yeah. Yeah. The cave bear, I think that might be it. I don't know. No, it's something else. Yeah, right there. What is that thing? No. It's like it looked like I don't know. It's a different thing. What does that say?
Ooh.
Yeah. What's that?
A giant short-faced bear.
There you go. The giant short-faced bear. 11 feet tall. Although so does a Kodiak, right? But 11 feet, dude. I mean, come on. Yeah, I don't know.
Whoa.
Yeah, they don't. You're going to be in some trouble there.
Well, what do you think about playing God like this?
I think playing God is inevitable. I think human beings will always strive to get to the next frontier, whether that's Mars, whether that's bringing back animals that were long extinct. I think that is what we will do. Whatever the human mind can conceive of, whatever our imagination comes up with, I believe will ultimately be reality. I really do.
You want to bring that back?
I do. I want to bring it back. I don't want to release it into the wild. I don't think that's a good idea because it's probably going to have zero fear of humans and look at humans as food. So I don't want to be hiking because my 9mm, I don't think it's going to do the job on that thing. I need a 45, and every time I hike, I got to walk around with a 45.
It's amazing that size doesn't really matter in the fauna games, you know?
Yeah. Size doesn't. It's also amazing that human beings can create a weapon that shoots that shoots a slug that weighs about as much as 2 nickels, and I can stop that thing. I can just open up the valves in its heart, and it becomes a catastrophic bleed, and it collapses at my feet because I hold my position and I go, hold, gush, 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 hold, straight out, both eyes open, heart full, eyes clear. No, bear. No. Sorry, they brought you back. Time to go back. Gush, 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 gush. Okay? They call me the reverser of all science.
That's a bad name.
It's a bad name. That sucked. That was a shit name. We're covering a lot of ground here. Direwolves. You know what's next. You know where direwolves is leading. It's leading to T-Rex. It's leading to T-Rex. When you have T-Rex, when the scientists come up with T-Rex, and we come up with an enclosure for T-Rex, everybody on the planet is going to be looking, we're going to be lined up to see that animal. It's going to be the craziest, biggest attraction of all time.
Remus and Romulus, great names for the direwolves.
Remus and Romulus, yes.
All right, moving on to your favorite topic. John Oliver.
Oh, John Oliver. Yeah. John Oliver says we don't have any evidence that trans athletes, male to female athletes competing in female sports, we don't have enough evidence that they have a total advantage all the time. And he was like, sometimes a bigger body doesn't help in dance and stuff. That's fine. Again, this is a guy using narrative to circumvent a truth all of us know is a truth. Like mammalian biology, there are fundamental differences and vast differences physiologically and mentally between males and females. If you have any doubt about that, see the behavior of any male lion or male animal versus female animal. Look at elephants, look at lions, look at chimps, but especially look at humans throughout history. And the idea that John Oliver used 7-year-olds, he used 7-year-olds as an example, that a 7-year-old decides that they're trans. So John Oliver believes that children, as young as 7 apparently, should know what their gender is, and that we should affirm a 7-year-old's gender, because you know what's next with that, right? Puberty blockers, then cross-sex hormones, and sterilizing a kid before their brain's even developed. So John Oliver is not only a moron, fairly funny. It's not that I dislike, I actually think he's kind of funny, and I think he's witty, and he's got good writers. I don't watch the show a lot. But John Oliver is a moron if he's actually on the side of trans athletes, men being allowed to be in women's sports. He's a moron, and he deserves to be ridiculed. But more importantly, I've seen John Oliver with his shirt off on the beach in Santa Monica. He looked like somebody put glasses on ripe fruit, all right? On a pear. He's never done a fucking sport in his life. Line up 99 sports, I'll beat him at every sport. And he can work on every one of those sports for 10 years. That dude has never come into contact with physical objective reality. He has no idea what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to sports. He shouldn't weigh in on this. Biological males should not be in women's sports, period. J.K. Rowling is right. Dumb John Oliver, who's always on this like woke parade, is wrong. And I don't even believe he believes that. But if you want to keep going in Hollywood to this day, you better be on that side. It's so ridiculous. He's so dumb. And he's not dumb. John Oliver's not dumb. But John Oliver siloed off into his little silly nerd cave, never done a sport, never felt what it's like to be able to impose your will on another man in a sport, never known what it's like to feel really good in your own body and be really good at something physically. And when you don't know how to do that, that's a huge liability as a man. It's a huge liability to not have your arm raised because you beat somebody in a wrestling match. Or just understand what it's like to be able to beat somebody in a boxing match or throw a football or whatever it is that us regular guys have done even in high school, or whatever. The reason I still do a little sparring at 58, the reason I still work out like with guys like Tim Kennedy is because it reminds me of how tough I'm not, but it also reminds me, it keeps me in touch with what's actually hard. It keeps me in touch with myself in my own body. So I can resist life's slings and arrows. Here's what he says here. There are vanishingly few trans girls competing in high schools anywhere. Trans kids, like all kids, vary in terms of athletic ability, and there is no evidence they pose any threat to safety or fairness. First of all, the fact that you're saying there are trans kids, I have a problem with. You don't know if they're trans. You don't know if they're autistic. You don't know what they're going through mentally. So don't just assume because they say that they're a different gender that they're trans and we should honor that right away. Instead of getting them some help. They might have mental issues. They might be autistic. They might be trying to find their way and they're under a lot of pressure. There are 1,000 things and he knows better than to just say we know about trans kids. He's an asshole for that. He's an asshole. And he's also dangerous. And he contributes to creating irreversible damage in children before they know better. And now you got a whole slew of kids detransitioning, and it's too fucking late, and it's a disaster. So, I am totally and 100% against trans ideology. You're an adult, you want to do that shit, you go do that. That's fine. I'm not going to get in the way of that. You want me to call you miss, I will. I'm not going to censor you. I'm not going to make you feel bad about yourself. And if you're really good at a job and you show up and you're a woman or you're a biological man and you want to be as a woman and you're really good at a job that I need, I might even hire you. It's not what I'm talking about. Leave kids the fuck out of this and keep men out of women's sports, you dummy. And anybody who has anything else to say about that is a liar and isn't looking at evidence and is an ideologue or is just a dude like John Oliver who's not really ever felt what it's like to be a real man in a lot of spaces. He's an intellectual with his glasses and a smart ass because he was a nerd who never got the girl and never made the team. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's traumatic for a young man. That's the most traumatic thing. When you never made the team and you look like John Oliver, a pair with glasses, and you've never done a push-up, and you've never done anything physical, and you've never gotten the girl, it sucks. It's really hard. Your life is longing. And then you find some fame, you're older, and it's real hard to navigate. So do I think he's talented? Yes. Do I think he contributes? Yes. Do I think he's funny? Actually, I do. But I don't like him. I think he's an asshole.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I love J.K. Rowling. Yeah. Super rat. The record-setting rodent sniffing out landmines and saving lives. It's pretty cool. Now, do you have to have the rat on a leash? Here's the problem with this giant African pouch rat, all right, that he's got on a fucking leash. Number one, that thing looks like a chihuahua. It's that big. Number two, I don't know if I'm going to trust that rat because that rat might smell a cat and get haywire, and now I step on that landmine. I'm going to use a dog. I don't know why they're using rats. Rats don't always have the best reputations. Can I just read that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'm going to trust a rat. You got your rat, bro? Yeah. You got the harness? Oh, is he going to save your life by wagging his tail? Let's see. They don't have, yeah. Ronan and his landmine sniffing rat pack are making a name for rodents everywhere by saving innocent civilians from hidden explosives. The African giant pouched rat recently set a new world record for the most landmines detected by a rat. Yeah. By a rat. Didn't know there was a record. Dude, you shattered the old record. Between August 2021 and February 2025, Ronan uncovered 109 landmines and 15 other pieces of unexploded ordnance in a region close to Siem Reap in Cambodia. You know what I think? I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't. I think it's a lie. I think the article's a lie, and I don't even think they're using rats. How about fucking that? I think y'all are liars. That's what I believe. Did I apologize for my face, by the way?
No, not yet.
Yeah, my face sucks. Why dogs are better. Yeah, you can train them. Strong bond with humans. Oh, you mean the African pouched rat doesn't bond with a human? Versatility. Oh, they can work a wide variety of environments. You mean a rat can't with those tiny fucking little legs? You mean you constantly have to look up because hawks might come down and snatch your rat, which is what he deserves, by the way, because a rat's fucking hawk food / eagle food. All right. You mean a cat might just pounce out of nowhere and grab him by the old rat neck and run off in the shadows? Oh, yeah. Oh, endurance. What? Oh, you mean rats don't have endurance? You mean those tiny lungs can't handle long work days? Ah, man. I thought that hamster wheel I have in his cage was going to work his stamina. And I wonder, are they reliable? And when they do smell a landmine, what do? Screech?
Ooh.
Advantages of using rats for explosives detection. John Oliver probably wrote this. Too light to trigger mines. Okay. That's good. Rats are so lightweight that they can walk over buried landmines without setting them off. I like that. Okay. All right. I'm with you on this. I'm with you. Low cost. Rats are much cheaper to feed, house, and train than dogs. True. I mean, it's not like dogs are going to bankrupt you. I've seen homeless people with dogs. So, I mean, how expensive are they? Ideal for organizations or countries with limited resources? I don't know about that. I mean, just get a kennel. Efficient training. Surprisingly, rats can be trained to detect explosives in as little as 9 fucking months. It's a long time. They respond to clicker training and food rewards just like dogs. Easier to transport, highly sensitive noses. They have a very sharp sense of smell, and they can detect TNT and other chemicals used in explosives just as accurately as dogs in controlled environments. All right.
You lose.
All right. I don't know if I know how to read rat behavior when they smell TNT. But all right, I got you.
All right, let's wrap with some stuff that's going to piss you off.
All right.
You should be executed.
One of my favorite things is when the trash.
He said you should be executed? That was kind of. Let me see what he said again.
If you're a fat personal trainer, you should be executed.
That's a little much. Let me see this
favorite
guy.
things is when the trash takes itself out. Hi, I'm Roy. I am a fat personal trainer. And I've been working in the fitness space for like 7 or 8 years now, and it never ceases to amaze me the amount of toxicity there is amongst other trainers. Personally, I advocate for body inclusivity in the fitness space always, and most of that stems from the fact that my own personal journey in fitness started with a severe eating disorder. My ED almost unalived me, so I have no regrets about being in a larger body now. And as it stands now, I don't work with clients who work specifically on weight loss goals because it's not good for my mental health. And there are thousands of other goals that don't have to do with the size of your waist. I was really nervous about having a career in fitness when I put on a little bit of weight, but people flocked to me because they no longer found me intimidating. I've been featured in Men's Health magazine. I was recently in a music video about loving your body, and I'm currently on a billboard in Times Square. You can think that size inclusive and fat personal trainers want to be executed all you want, but we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think that executing that man is a little bit over the top. And I let me see him. Look, this guy, I love capitalism. This guy found a niche, and he's like, if you don't want somebody who's shredded and you want somebody who's been through and going through the same shit you are, come work out with me. So that's cool. He looks strong. He's got strong legs. I guarantee he can squat a lot. But he's also very gay, and that Speedo is obscene. I don't know what's going on with his genitals either. They just look like they're mashed into his taint. They're just mashed into his taint. God bless him. And he's selling, for 24 flash sale, only $1,000 for the next 10 people that join. All right. Just out here promoting my body inclusive retreats as someone with over 100K followers that just wants to help people love the body they're in. Look, I love the internet because this guy figured out a way to use the fact that he is not fit, that he probably doesn't know anything about fitness, to make money. Fantastic. He dresses in drag. He's very gay. He's defiant. He wears tight shirts. And, he looks like he's, there are people that are into that. There are people that are physically attracted to a man with all that weight on him. He's cuddly. And there are a lot of guys who are married to women who look exactly like that, by the way. That's the majority of America. So if the guy's going to make money that way, more power to him. But the only thing about this is when I see somebody with that kind of weight and he's, talking about body positivity, I don't quite believe it. It's like him convincing himself that all the trauma of looking that way and having a weight problem your whole life, you finally just say, you know what? I'm fat and beautiful, and that's my new remedy. It's still a little bit of a lie. He's lying to himself. He's lying to us. And, good luck with that. You're just twisting the fabric of reality. And if you can make money doing that, all good. If you can eat your pie and make money off it, God bless. And I bet you he does have a lot of clients who are like, I just want to work out with you because I'm fat and I don't want to be shamed into thinking I have to lose weight because it's really hard. One of the things that they found about the band, when you reduce somebody's stomach and they lose weight and they're not as hungry with people who had obesity problems, their suicide rate goes up. Because the food was how they coped with something much bigger than food. So this guy had an eating disorder. But my guess is it wasn't the food. There might be some underlying trauma. There might be some underlying damage he's not come to terms with that's very difficult for him. So you're dealing with an emotional situation here. This is an emotional ecosystem that has to be negotiated before you can lose weight, So I have a lot of compassion. I don't like to make fun of the guy. I like him. I like my country. I like a marketplace that if you can game a marketplace, that guy's going to make money. Good for him. So I know you get me with these. I know what you're doing. I can already see that this is going to be when soy hits an entire generation.
Today for this floor performance. I want to feel really connected to you. Okay. I'd like you super close. Okay. I might be interested in playing with a little bit of, taking my sight away for a little bit. Okay. I'd be really interested in really, crunchy shapes, feeling, really compressed maybe even. And then maybe, also countering that with, some stretching and things like that. Love it. How soft do you want me to be? Probably somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. I don't want something that's really nice either. Got it. Okay, cool. Like I said, we've been tying for so long that sometimes negotiations are just a very, very, check-in, how are you, and then what do you want to feel before we go into it. We find that floor rope is the most comforting and the thing that we often do most at home when no one is watching. So we feel really excited to share that with you today.
Floor rope. What is floor rope? Dylan? Is it tying somebody up?
Yeah, it's It's tying.
Are those guys gay? Look, that's whatever's going on there is called a fetish. That's fine. It's a fetish. It's literally, two people who decided that the man game is exhausting and want it to be as feminine as possible and embrace their feminine side to the nth degree. And now they're into some strange sexual role play stuff. They're both playing a character and they're both going to do some kinky stuff. Again, I'm not going to judge them. They're two adults. God bless. Go with God. Do your thing. Do your thing, man. If that gets you off, which it probably does, then I guess there we have it. Now you're going to a website. I'm looking at this right now, and it looks like there's a bunch of people tying up. Yeah, some people want to be dominated. Some people want to be dominant. Some people want to be tied up. Other people want to tie them up. This is called yin and yang, give and take. And this will always be the case. So,
How?
Some people call it perversion. I call it variety. I call it a sexual circus. Oh, let me see what's going on there. Oh, go to the next one.
The next one?
Yeah. Or
腕がねちょっと痛い。
oh, the
なんで
Japanese. Oh,
前
yeah.
手がいい。
Well, this
Oh,
is
yeah, the Japanese have got that down to it. Let me see that one
So
down there.
this
No. The one to the right. Yeah, right here.
The tasky pattern refers to having
That's a guy.
ropes
That's a
just
guy.
on the inside of the shoulders
Yeah.
here. It does have a function in that it helps to keep the shoulders more open.
Oh, really?
But I find with this style of stemless gote, you don't really need it functionally. It's more of a decorative
Yeah,
pattern.
this is all
There's a-
perversion and kink, and there are people that get off on this. And the Japanese and the Germans, any repressive, super rigid, disciplined culture is going to have the underground, the under tapestry that's going to be doing shit you're not going to believe. So the more you repress behavior, when you repress behavior with strict cultural norms, you don't change behavior, you just drive it underground. And it needs a release valve. And it's going to find itself a release valve in ropes and cages and even poo. All right? I said it. Because we all know where it leads. To poo. So that's how it is. And if you don't believe me, the vast majority of scat videos come out of where? Germany and Japan. The countries that were the most warlike, the most obsessed with order, the most obsessed with discipline, the most obsessed with fanatical devotion to authority, the most rigid. Yeah. The country where not a lot of stand-up comedy came out of, but very good steel and dogs that bite. Yeah. And people that have never been late once in their life. Okay? And engineering. Yeah. And a tiny island like Japan that almost took over half the world because of their fanatical devotion to not only authority, but their belief that their way was the only and best way. Yes. And that a civilization like China that had been around way longer than theirs was, subhuman as they taught their soldiers. If you have doubts about that, don't read about Nanking in the 30s. Don't. It'll give you trauma, what the Japanese did. Yeah, it'll give you trauma. That was when hell visited the earth. It's happened many times, probably happening right now, especially in Ukraine with trench warfare. Say a prayer. Say a prayer for those children that have nothing to do with the conflict in Gaza. Say a prayer. Sometimes you're left with just shaking your head and saying a prayer and just hoping that this is all one big virtual reality and it'll all be made whole when we're dead and gone. Or that we learn how to resonate with love, which lowers our entropy. Yeah.